Hi my beautiful B squad, it's your girl Karima B and I am back with another video. Before we get into the video, please make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Hit notification bell so you're notified every time your girl posts because you don't want to miss it. As you can see by the title, you already know what the video is going to be about. I figured that after almost 3 years, I want to talk about this, okay? This has literally been the most traumatic season of my life. Grieving, as some of y'all may know, is something that it's hard, okay? It's not a textbook that tells you how to grieve, right? So when I lost my dad, I would have never imagined that it was going to be as hard on me as it was, okay? So let's backtrack a little bit. And also, if you are grieving a parent, a child, whoever, and you need a safe place to talk about your experience, feel free to get in my comments. So let's backtrack a little bit. So my dad, he passed away July of 2023. Me and my dad was really close. I was definitely a daddy's girl. I love my mama, but I was a daddy's girl all day long, okay? Since I was a little girl. So he was my favorite person. Right before he passed away, the last, I'll say about 5 years, me and him was locked in even more. Like, I was his caretaker. I was the person that stepped up to, be there for him the most. Out of his kids and stuff. His kids would help, but I just dedicated my time in my life to just trying to make sure I was there for my daddy. My daddy was a bit older. He was in his early 60s when he passed away, but I still feel like he could have lasted longer if his health would have went a different way. And we're going to talk about that. Now, growing up, my dad always had, I'm going to say girlfriend/wife. The reason why I say wife is because it was pretty much like a marriage, but I don't think they actually ever did the paperwork. But for as long as I can remember, she's always been in the picture, right? Now, growing up with her, like, my mom, I already talked about that and stuff like that. But she, in other people's eyes, they all admire her because they felt like she stepped up to be a parent for us. That's all they ever seen, right? But for me, although I was appreciative because I have respect for step parents that step in and actually love the child of their partners, even if the child isn't theirs, right? I always try to keep respect for her. I think I lived with them the most when I was like upper teen, like 15, 16, and I moved out like at 17. And so I tried to keep the utmost respect for her, but I knew something was kind of off. Like, I'm really big to this day on intuition. Like, you don't have to, people tell me I'm right too. You don't have to tell me much, you don't have to talk much, you don't have to, I'm going to know if something is off with you. I'm going to know if your heart isn't pure. I'm going to know if you have motives. But I always got that vibe from her. I just couldn't quite put my finger on it. So I couldn't quite put my finger on what was off about her. I just knew that it never really felt like stepmom, daughter type of vibe. It never felt like that homey type of vibe in the house. It never felt like, I actually do want to be like a mom to you. I do want to motivate you. I do want to be like, hug you, tell you things, talk to you about personal things that you need to talk about. It was never really like that. It was almost like it felt like a transaction to me. Like, for me, it felt like for her, it was temporary. Like, I can't wait till they get out of my house, right? Which is okay if that's how you feel. But people just always try to make us feel like we should be appreciative that this woman is in our lives. I'm just like, but I never felt anything too genuine about her. So that's how the whole kind of childhood went when I was living with them for like my teenagers and stuff. So let's fast forward moving forward, right? So yes, my dad has built a life with this woman, okay? So I try to stay out of their business. Always try to stay out of it. So I believe 2020, basically she kicked my dad out the house, right? I know y'all like, well, what you mean she kicked him out? She kicked him out, right? I'm going to be honest, my dad, he had his own income, but she was the breadwinner because she had like a career, a degree, and everything like that. It's always been set up since they first got together. They had a whole agreement that I didn't really know much about. Stayed out of it, right? So my dad, here he is, he's in his very, very early 60s, and she kicked him out. She never reached out to us to tell us why. She never reached out to us to tell us anything about my dad. It was never like, oh, I'm going to give you a heads up, because you kids have been in my life this long, this is what's going to happen with your dad. Now, I know some people are going to view it as, well, he should have had his own, which is true, but they built the life together. Some people have households like that, you feel me? So at the end of the day, I always felt like she could have contacted us to let us know, because at this point, he's elderly, right? You kick the elderly man out that you spent 30 plus years with without consulting with his kids. So we had to pick up the pieces. We had to take care of him. Now, if he was younger, then he could have took control of his life, but he's old, right? So she never consulted with us. She never talked to us about anything. We just had to pick him up off the bench and try to do the best that we can, right? So boom, 2020, our lives have changed. It went from my dad always being with her So now what do we do to take care of our elderly father? So I did the best that I could. My sister and my brother, we tried to step up. So basically, I fought hard and we came together to get him into his own place. Praise God, right? So then it was really my responsibility to make sure we upkeep the place, make sure he's okay physically, make sure he has somebody that's there for him. So I took that role to be that person. So at that time, I was very, very, very busy because I was overworking myself. I was working my 9 to 5 a lot. Now, mind you, when he first got kicked out, me and my dad spent time together more because that was during COVID, so nobody had to work and stuff. So I was always with my dad, checking in with him and stuff like that. But you know, I started working a couple years later, so I didn't have time to be there for him every single day and da-da-da. So I got very busy, but I still talked to my dad every single day. I still made sure he had food. I still made sure, like, let me know what you need and I'll come do it. I made sure his rent was paid, all these things. But the only thing I had an issue with was his health. And this is where we kind of get into the story. Now, his health, I don't know if y'all know, but a lot of men, I'm not going to say all, a lot of men, health-wise, they either think they can handle it on their own, they think they have more, you know, sense than the doctors, or they just simply don't care. So it do take a lot of times for the woman, the wife, the mother, the sister to make sure men are taking care of themselves, right? So in my mind, I thought my daddy was okay. Like, I'm like, okay, he'll tell me if something is wrong. He looks fine. For the first couple of years of him, you know, being out of her house, he still had his weight on him. He still looked good. So he still had his weight on him. He looked good. Everything was good. And then I feel like drastically he started to look sick, right? Drastically, I'm like, Dad, are you taking your diabetes medicine? But I didn't know how serious it was because, mind you, these last 30 years, she has been taking care of him health-wise or helping him keep it in order, right? So I thought about it. I said, well, dang, she never told me the things that she was doing to help him with his health. He's elderly now, so yes, I would have to know the medication. Yes, I would have to know what he has to take. Can you tell me his doctor? Stuff like that. Mind y'all, if he was younger, that would be okay for him to handle, but he's older, right? So I'm like, okay, so as I see his health decline, and this had to be like a year, 6 months, couple months before he passed away. And I remember this same stepmom, I reached out to her because I had left his house. I was like, something not right with him. So I asked her, and I said, listen, my dad's health is declining. I don't know what's going on with him. I don't know if I should call an ambulance. Can you please, and I have proof of that message. I asked her, I said, can you please help me to try to get my dad's health in order? Can you tell me what medication he need to be taking? His doctors, can you tell me something? She ignored the whole message. She never messaged me back, right? I think that one was a week before I think he passed away. Never responded, never nothing, right? So long story short, it was like it happened overnight. 1 minute he was okay. And I remember the last time I saw him was when me and my sister stopped by because I remember I had to hurry get home to get to work because I work from home. And I remember I was like, something not right about him. He said he was in pain and stuff. He was like, I'm all right. So I remember, you know, we said, okay, Dad, we'll be back to check on you. So I remember, I think the day before he passed away, because I'm still not strong enough to know the exact day he passed away. To be honest, I didn't ask the coroner, like, what specific date did he pass? Well, not date, but time or whatever. Like, they told us July 26th, but I wanted to know how long he was deceased and everything. But I had went to his house the night before he passed away, right? I remember we didn't talk in like 3 days, and that was unusual. I was like, nah, I said, he not answering my call, so I'm at work, like, what's going on? Like, why he not responding? And then I remember my boyfriend was at the time, and I told my boyfriend I got us dinner, and I was like, wait, I gotta go check on my dad. I was like, something's not right. I have to leave right now. Mind you, this is like 9 going on 10 o'clock at night because I work the night shift. And I was like, I'm going over there. So I rushed over there, and I remember I was driving, and I was like getting bad anxiety, and my stomach was hurting, and for some reason I couldn't drive down his street. Mind y'all, this is a drive I do all the time, but that night I could not drive. And when I got in front of his building, I turned around and said, Rima, go home. And I was like, why, what's wrong? Like, why am I so timid to go to his house? Oh, I was so timid. I was so scared. And I think, you know how they say parents have intuition about their child? I think kids have intuition about their parents, because I think I knew that he was gone. So I'm stressing out, go to his house, and I just get a bad feeling, and I'm panicking. I'm like, because, you know, his light on, but he's not answering. This is the first time he's not answering the door. And I thought maybe he had his headphones in because he did music, but I'm like, no, something not right. So I called the same girlfriend of 30 years. I called her house phone, and I know for a fact she sees his name pop up, either his name or my name, because our names is on the same account. And she didn't answer. I wanted to ask her, like, hello, like, can you come? Something wrong with my dad? Like, I don't know. I was asking for the medicine. I think it probably finally happened, whatever. And she did not answer my phone call, y'all, at all. So I had to reach out to my big sister, my little sister, my brother, because I was about to pass out. like that. So the cops come do a wellness check, and they said because I didn't have the key, because mind you, I had his key. I had the old key on my thing. I forgot he changed the lock. So I could get in there. The cop convinced me that maybe he just sleep, you know, he's older and stuff, which the cops, I feel like they could have done more, to be honest, but they did nothing. They told me to go home and just wait till the morning. So I went, and I told my little sister and my brother, y'all need to come down, because they stay like, well, my sister stay like 45 minutes away. So long story short, we find him. He's not allowed no more things like that. And then we're going to fast forward into why I feel like my stepmom never loved us, never cared about us. So basically, you know, we found out he passed away. We go tell her. She's hysterical. She's crying. She's even with her sister, because her sister, we feel like she kicked my dad out to move her sister in, because all of a sudden her sister was in the picture. So yeah, that's that. And so they hysterically crying and stuff like that, which I hope was genuine, but come to find out it wasn't. So, you know, her being the one that was with him the longest, of course, she had control over the paperwork. By the time I got my daddy in that position, my daddy was too old to go through paperwork. He didn't want to deal with that stuff, because he had already did all that with her. So I respected it. You know, in the beginning of my dad arrangements, I was in control of it. She told me, yeah, Rima, you already in control. You got control of it. So my plan was to do the funeral, the viewing, the obituary, see about the money, like, is there a life insurance policy? You know I don't have no control over any of it, but I know she has one. So I asked her, like, do you want to come together, see how we're gonna pay for it? And all of a sudden she got all of these thoughts that she wanted to tell us and say, oh, he didn't want a funeral, he didn't want this, he wanted to be cremated, all he wanted was to be cremated and his kids to have his ashes. And she said when it came to the insurance policy that my dad did want us to have some of the money. She told us the amount, we're going to give you this a piece, this a piece, this a piece, the whole shebang, right? So we agreed, hey, if you say he didn't want a funeral, he didn't want a funeral. So we said we're going to do the ashes, right? Now this is when it gets very dark. This is when the story gets dark. So when it comes to the ashes, and I know a lot of people wanted to know details about this. So when it comes to the ashes, I'm going to the funeral home. I'm talking to the funeral director. I'm the one that's getting the ashes. She knows this. I told her, and things like that. So there's a date for me to get the, well, not a date, but around the time for me to go get the ashes and stuff, I'll call and check in with the funeral director. Hey, when can I come get the ashes? When it's going to be ready? And he said she already picked it up. Mind you, she never told me she picked it up. She never told me she intended on picking it up. She never said anything about the ashes being at her house or being with her. She just one day got up and just got the ashes. Now, the funeral director told me that she was adamant on getting those ashes. He said that she demanded those ashes. She called them multiple times a day to get those ashes, but she never once told me that that was her intent to get the ashes, right? I confronted her and asked her, why didn't you tell me you was getting my dad's ashes when you know it was coming to me? She said, I thought because you probably couldn't handle the stress of that. That's what she told me. I said, you don't tell me what you think I can handle. That was my thing with my father, right? It gets a lot worse, right? So she gets the ashes, she disappears basically. Like, she didn't never say she was going anything with that. She took it, whatever she went, and that was that. I'm pissed off, I'm hurt. This is making my grieving journey way worse, right? It's just not helping. So I asked her, okay, so when are we going to be able to distribute the ashes? What are we going to do with the ashes and stuff like that? She tells me, well, you know, I just need some time. My sister tell y'all, she said, I'm just going to need some time to process this. And I'll get back to y'all, you know, basically made it about her and said she needs time to process my dad's death, right? That's what she said. Then I proceed to ask her about the money. What's going to happen with the money? She was like, I said, well, can I see the insurance policy? Like, is there multiple? Like, can you tell me anything about it? Y'all don't need to know about the insurance policy. I'm going to give y'all the money, right? Cool. Never gave us the money. Never gave us the money. Never signed off nothing to give us. Never gave us the ashes. None of that, right? So she tells me we're going to do the ashes for his birthday, like a few months later. Okay, we're gonna do that. She was just tell us something, and we'll be like, okay, well, and then she just disappeared. Let's put it like that. She disappeared, didn't talk to us, nothing like that. Anything that my dad wanted, she did not do, especially in regards to his kids. She never kept her word on anything. She never gave us the money, never, nothing like that. So at that point, I'm devastated, I'm crying, I'm stressed out. That's how I ended up losing 80 pounds. She made my grieving journey, me and my siblings' grieving journey 30 times worse. She didn't include us in anything. She didn't try to make it memorable in a good way. She literally disowned us, stole the money, and stole the ashes from us. So we had no way to tell my dad goodbye. We had no memorial. We had no money to help us through our grieving stage, because at that time I had to take time off of work, and so I could have really used the money. She gave no crap about us. Whatever went on between her and my father, which who would ever know, had nothing to do with his kids. We never disrespected her. We never say anything mean to her. We never even got mad at her for kicking him out. We always respected her wishes. We always respected their relationship, right? And that's how we got treated in return. So months and months passed by, right? All of a sudden, we hear one more thing about the ashes. No, she didn't give the ashes to us. all of a sudden she sent his ashes off to my dad's sister that stays out of state. His ex-girlfriend stays by us, but she sent his ashes out of state to my dad's sister. Why? I have no idea. I still to this day don't know why she did that. Why did she skip over his kids? So that right there tells you she never liked us. That right there tells you she never loved us. I would understand if it was a quick relationship, but after 30 plus years, everybody done told me it don't matter how bad them and the men would have went through it, I'm gonna keep my word to his kids. You get what I'm saying? I'm gonna keep my word to his. As a woman, you want to do that. As a person with a heart, with integrity, you want to do that. She didn't do anything, and I know people gonna have different views on this story time because I know how everybody could see this story. But at the end of the day, my dad was with somebody that he trusted. I can guarantee you 100% that he would have never thought that she would have did that to us. Now, she may have been mad about an argument they had. She may have been, but I know he said when it comes to my kids, she gonna sort all of that out. But she didn't. She didn't, right? So now we're almost 3 years after my dad's passing, and nothing has changed. Nothing was done. She never reached out. She never sent nothing that was ever sent to us. I still don't have my dad's ashes. Who knows where? It's probably in the ocean somewhere now. That being said, I know people can look at this in all types of ways, and I respect everybody's point of view. What I learned from it is that I feel like as a parent, make sure you have this talk with your kids, right? Make sure you're leaving your kids with something. Make sure your kids are a part of your will, of your life insurance. Do not always believe that your spouse will make the best decision for your children, especially when that spouse is a step parent. Because a lot of times when you pass away, that contract is over. They can care less about your kid. So I do wish my dad made a better choice when it came to that. But again, I'm going to give him a little bit of grace because I know he got old quick, you know, and he just believed that she would do the right thing, and she did not. So yes, that made my grieving journey 20 times worse. That made me sick as a dog. That made me drop 80 pounds. To this day, I still have a open wound in my heart because I still haven't been able to grieve my dad. My siblings have not been able to grieve our dad. We was never able to say goodbye. We was never able to go to the ocean and drop some of his ashes. We was never able to have a couple of dollars to help us on our hard times during grieving. We was never able to have that. She stole that from us. Yeah, that's the story time on my grieving journey with my dad. The details about exactly what went down. Y'all get in my comments and let me know, have you ever experienced something like this? What are your thoughts? What's some lessons that anybody can learn from this? Because I know it can happen to anybody. And I won't take anything personally because I understand. But at the same time, continue to pray for me and my siblings because as you can see, we're still healing, okay? All right, y'all. My name is Karima B. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll catch you in the next video. Bye.